Have you ever wished that you had a master floral designer that you could have stand beside you step by step and teach you the process of floral design? My name is Kirby Holt. I'm a master floral designer with more than 25 years of experience in the business, and I want to show you step by step how to create beautiful floral designs with the kits from myfloraldesign.com. I hope you enjoy this video and this series. Well, today I have a really beautiful traditional centerpiece for you. Sometimes I show you arrangements that are more contemporary or high style. This one today is very traditional, very much on the European style, very soft, beautiful, kind of a compact low arrangement. We're going to start with this hydrangea bush, and the colors here are blues and purples that work well together. That's the colors are on the cool side of the color wheel. If you think of reds, yellows, oranges, those tend to be colors that we think of suggesting warmth. And on the cooler side, greens and blues and purples and lavenders tend to be colors that make us think of a cooler atmosphere. So those are kind of what we will think of in making these arrangements. Now, I'm trimming these hydrangeas back because this is not a real tall arrangement, and I'm harvesting these lower sets of leaves, and we will put those leaves in to kind of green in the bottom of the centerpiece against the styrofoam, and then we can put the other elements that we're going to have on top, and those leaves will just kind of create a nice foundation or bed for the other flowers to sit on top of. But I've cut all of the hydrangea low off of that stem, and then I'm coming back, and just above the bottom set of leaves on every stem, I'm cutting that bottom set of leaves off. So that's a good guideline for you to know how to harvest these leaves off of that bush. Now, we already have the styrofoam and the moss glued in for you, and I'm just going to begin to place these hydrangea leaves all around the edges. And I don't like to waste materials, but we have a few of these leaves that we probably aren't going to use, and in just a moment when I begin to cut those off, I'll explain why. Well, you can see I've been able to create kind of a collar. If you think of a collar on a dress or a blouse or a shirt, you have that all the way around the neck. So I've created that with these leaves just going all around the edges, and I'm going to trim out a few of these leaves because they are going the opposite direction, and I don't like to see the back of the leaf. Where if we see the back of the leaf and it shows that plastic that we have right in there, I try not to show that. So just be aware of that as you're putting it together, and any of those leaves that you're seeing the back of it, just by trimming those out. Now I'll hold that up again. You can see how much neater it just looks a lot neater, and you notice there's still a few places where we don't have foliage, but as we fill the arrangement in, we'll take care of those. Now I'm going to start with the tallest stem of the hydrangea, so we'll see which one wins. So I think probably this is about our tallest. That's going to make the tallest point in the arrangement. Now, I am not gluing any of these flowers in, but if you wanted to have your glue gun handy and just put a little dot of hot glue on every stem as you start to insert it, it will get everything glued together real tight for you, and you don't have to worry about it coming out. The nice thing about not gluing is that if you decide later you want to change something, you can much more easily because things aren't glued in so tight. But I'm just going to create really the frame of the arrangement. You can see I've kind of created a frame of how the size of this arrangement is going to be just by the insertions of this hydrangea. Now this one's a little bit taller than I need it to be to kind of sit into this hole right here. And you know, just by going in, I don't want them too perfectly placed in here because with a garden, when things are growing, especially in an English garden, they aren't too fixed. They're, you know, they let nature take their course just a little bit. So we'll have a little bit of clump here, a little clump here, and not have things too fixed, too tight. Now the next element that we're going to put in are the ranunculus. And again, we're going to cut those off low next to the stem. And it's good to have a really good pair of wire cutters so that you can click right through those. Usually for an arrangement like this, I will have wire cutters, scissors, and a knife handy. And these are some good little garden shears that work well for that. Just a little utility knife works well, so that if you are needing to strip a little bit of something away from a stem, you have that knife handy to be able to do that. So I've cut all of these ranunculus apart, and I can even take about 3 of those stems and cut them. If you have good hand strength, that's easy. Now I'm going to take these foliage, the leaves that are on here, and gently push those up just behind the flower instead of having them all down the stem. And just, I'm not bringing them up to touch, but just barely below the flower. And that is giving us a little bit of, again, we talked about the collar. That's a little bit of a collar of foliage around the face of each one of those blooms. This is a wonderful centerpiece that works well in so many places. It's just a pretty arrangement. Often we work to show you arrangements, present arrangements to you that are very different, stylish, contemporary. And sometimes we get carried away with the design element of it, and sometimes it's just refreshing to have just a pretty arrangement. There's nothing wrong with just a pretty flower arrangement. And I don't have a real specific order for these ranunculus as they're going in. I just want to follow the shape that I have determined with those hydrangea. And there's a little bit of a hole in here, so we're going to place a few of those ranunculus right in over here to kind of finish out the frame there, so that it just pulls that line or that curve all the way down. And you can just keep turning and turning and seeing where you need a little spot of that brighter purple. So I have one more to place, but you can see kind of how we've evenly spaced those all around the arrangement. I think I'll take this last ranunculus and put it right here near the top. Now the next thing I'm going to use is the Dusty Miller. And I love the color and texture of this foliage. It really is similar to the container, and it allows elements of the arrangement to flow all the way down to the table level just by mimicking the color and texture of that container with this foliage. These gray tones over the last couple of years, the grays and blues have been very, very popular in interior decorating and even in fashion. It's interesting how often I will notice whatever colors are popular in fashion, the following year we will begin to see them show up in interior design palettes, and whatever color we like, we tend to use it not only in fashion, but also in our cars and the color of our furniture, maybe the soft textures in our homes. Now I'm going to pull that leaf up a little bit so that as I insert that in low, I'm not losing all of those leaves down on the inside where you can't see them. And just by pulling that leaf up, and do that kind of gently, if you push too hard, it'll pop that top leaf off. But by doing that, we can see all of those leaves, and that bottom leaf is not hidden down inside where you don't even see it. And that's a way of getting more impact out of the material by not hiding it all the way down on the inside of the arrangement. A nice thing about this type of arrangement, it works well in any interior style, whether you have a very contemporary style or a very traditional room. Pretty flowers, just a real soft, pretty traditional arrangement, works well in any of those settings. The compact style of arranging has become very popular the last few years. We see it a lot in the wedding work that we do, where the bouquets are really tight and kind of rounded. In the flower business, and I've been in the flower business almost 30 years, we always called these roundy moundies because it was really a staple of traditional floral design, those basic round bouquets. Generally, they are a style that's fairly easy to produce, but also they work really well in so many different settings. So I have placed that Dusty Miller all the way around. I think I have one more space here where I'll put that, and you can see it's just kind of equally spaced all the way through the arrangement. Now we're going to finish it off. I have this little mixed bouquet, and sometimes we even use these for weddings. I notice a lot of them are sold where maybe if it's a DIYer who's doing the wedding, you can take this and just put a bow on it, and it's a perfect little bridesmaid's bouquet. But we're going to take that apart. This bouquet is also great. You could just sit it in a small vase just like that without taking it apart. But in order to use this to our best advantage today, I'm going to cut all of those wires inside there that's holding it together and separate it. And this will give us just a little pop of that darker purple. And you see how I showed you how to pull the leaves up next to the base of those ranunculus. They're already done for us in these, so that if we have a little bit of a hole, we can actually kind of move flowers around just a little bit and create that hole right in here for this one to go into. And I always just kind of work with those leaves so that a big leaf isn't laying over on another flower and hiding the flower with a leaf. Another thing that I try to do is keep most of this group up near the top of the arrangement so that we have one here, here, and we'll just go around the arrangement and finish filling in. But I'm not putting those down real low because I want that darker color to impact more in the center of the arrangement. All right, this one I'm going to cut just a tip off of it so that I can get it to sit down in below that top flower. But see how that kind of sits right in below there? I have another space right under it, so I'm going to use that little darker purple hydrangea right in under there and finish filling that hole in. So we have two more blooms, and what's important to do is just look and see where you have an opening or where you have a hole that needs a little bit of that purple color. I think we can use one right in there. And then maybe we have one right here that we put this last flower into. And I like the fact that we have a couple of those roses right next to each other. We don't have everything perfectly distributed, because in nature, flowers tend to grow in clumps and clusters rather than in perfectly little synchronized lines. Okay, so we have a beautiful, traditional, romantic and soft flower arrangement, a centerpiece for a breakfast table or a coffee table or even a bedroom. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I encourage you to browse the library of arrangements and videos on our website, myfloraldesign.com.